Welcome to Nice Ashes. I'm Mike.
And I'm Nate.
What are we smoking today, Nate?
And I told Mike I would do this. And I also told him I was going to butcher it. But this is the Herrera Esteli from Drew Estate.
Sounds about right to me.
Now, wasn't Drew Estate behind the Undercrown?
Yes, the Undercrown that everybody loves.
Yes. At least this one says Drew Estate right on the label. So maybe it's good.
They're very highly rated.
So was the Undercrown.
All right.
The one thing I have to remember, Mike, with my new V-Cut is when I V-Cut, it shoots cigar stuff out the back. So I have to remember to do it over the ashtray. Otherwise, I'm picking up cigar trimmings.
Oh, interesting. It doesn't hold the little cigar in the cup, huh?
Well, it holds the cigar in the cup, but the back of it is wide open, so it kind of like shoots it out the back. At least the design of mine, which is fine. Like, I don't have a problem with it. I have to actively remember because I've switched from my guillotine cutter to this one now because I quite like this one. But I just have to remember I kind of got into the force of habit with the other one where I would have to like kind of tap the cutter out to get the cut end out of it.
Oh, that's right. Your guillotine does have a little cup on the back, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Forgot about that. Mine's open, so interesting.
All right. Yeah, first couple puffs are pretty good.
Yeah, it's a pretty typical, decent cigar. Not overly dark, kind of medium bodied.
Yes.
Not too bad. Does have a slight astringent taste to it if you really look for it.
Yeah, slightly. Before we get into the topic, we have a couple things we need to wrap up. We're going to wrap up for the sanity of Mike. We've got a couple, what would you call them, corrections or addendums or some previous episodes.
Yes. So first things first, I was singing the praises of a Pittsburgh ratchet end wrench. What was it? The swivel end wrench.
Swivel end.
And it's the indexable wrench. Because they make a swivel end wrench. Nate showed me, and I've never used that one. It's called an indexable wrench.
And this has been keeping Mike up at night, so hopefully tonight he can get some good sleep because he has come clean.
Yes, I have.
And then, Mike, you also had an update on the sovereign citizens.
Yes, I do. So a listener sent me a text message about it, and they had a question about Native American tribes and becoming a sovereign citizen because they heard a rumor. They
said, "Oh yeah, you go on."
Oh no, you go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, Mike and I talk outside the show. Might come as a shock to some of you listeners, but Mike had told me that this listener believed that Native Americans could adopt people into their tribe to then become sovereign citizens.
Yes, and I have disappointing information. So the BIA has 574 federally recognized American Indian and Alaskan Native tribes.
And what is the BIA for those of us that are acronym adverse?
The Bureau of Indian Affairs.
Okay, thank you.
The BIA does not set criteria for tribal enrollment. Each individual tribe sets their own rules for enrollment. Typically, the rules are based on genealogy.
Yep.
And you have to usually have some sort of legal documentation showing family membership. And then they usually have blood quantum.
Yep.
Which is like you have to prove genetically that you have a certain percentage, usually a quarter. And then you also have to have residency and continued contact with the tribe. Now, this is for the listener. The BIA does not set the rules. Every tribe sets its own rules. So if there is a tribe that will allow white people to become band members, you would have to find that very specific band online. And I looked and I could not find any advertisement for that. I know that obviously you would not be able to qualify for the quantum and get federal subsidy. Now, as far as the tax policy goes, I know this because I worked with tribal members in the past. You have to live on a reservation and work on a reservation to qualify for tax-exempt status. So if you wanted to be a tax-exempt person, you would have to be, one, a member of a band, and there's 574 of them that set their own rules. Two, you have to live on a reservation and work on a reservation. So even if you're a band member living on a reservation, if you work off of a reservation, you have to pay tax. Or if you live off of the reservation and work on the reservation, you have to pay tax. Does that all make sense?
It does. What if you live on one reservation and work on a different reservation?
That's totally fine.
Okay.
Even if you're, let's say you're a Navajo and you're living on a Hidatsa reservation and working on a Hidatsa reservation, you do not have to pay tax because you're living on a reservation.
Yes.
See what I'm saying? You're a band member of a different tribal nation, but you're still living on a tribal reservation.
Lands. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Do they prefer tribal lands or reservation?
Again, there's 574 standards. They all decide what they want, right?
Yes, yes.
So there is no right or wrong answer.
I, too, have an update on one of our past episodes. And I didn't text you this, and I was going to, but I figured it'd be better now to get your full reaction. Our plumber friend Keith said you nailed it on what plumbers need to know.
Nice.
He wants to know when you're coming to give a refresher training to plumbers.
Nice. I will say that I'm quite handy and I fix almost everything at the house, but I will not fix any plumbing at my house under no circumstances.
Yeah.
Like that is a skill level beyond what I'm capable of, and my confidence level is about 0.
Yeah.
So
I did put a new the flapper valve in our toilet, although I don't think I said it correctly. But and then just recently I had to put a new handle on our toilet because we had the original plastic one from like 1960 whatever, and I was sent to the store with explicit instructions to get a metal one.
Oh, sure. I replaced all the flapper valves and handles on my toilets in the house. I'm talking more anything that has to do with piping.
Yeah.
I don't want. Yeah, I'm not messing with it. Yeah. I don't know. I'd probably change out a faucet. But
yeah, I don't think a faucet. Yeah. I think a faucet is easy. I'd change out a faucet in our bathroom, and that was fine because it's mostly just the hoses. Like you shut off the water, make sure all the water's out of the thing, put some towels down because there's still water in it, even though there's nothing coming out the faucet, and you just put a new faucet in. Like it's not complicated as long as you do all the things the right way, you know.
Right. And the flooding wouldn't be. You'd know right away if you messed it up. Hopefully.
Oh yeah,
right?
Yeah. But you have a story about coming unglued bowling, and then we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of this episode.
I do. But before that, did you send that video? I forwarded you a video about electricians. Did you forward that to our listener friend?
No, I didn't. Pretending a broom was Klein.
Yeah, pretending a broom was Klein so the electricians would clean up after themselves.
No, and it's funny because you've helped me out multiple times with electricianeering, right?
Yep, yes, I have. Yes.
And you're like, okay, you're just like clipping things and snipping things and things are flying everywhere. And you're like, yeah, we don't clean these up. And I'm like, oh, okay. Which is fine because like you're helping me. So it's not a big deal for me to clean them up. But it's so true. You sent me that and I'm like, yep, that's totally
it's so true. Yeah. Everybody shits on the electricians. Rightfully so, by the way. Because cleaning up after ourselves is not. It's like, yeah, just cut the end of the conduit off and let it fall into the corner. Who gives a shit? Yeah. You're going to be out of this room in an hour, so screw it.
Yeah, to be fair, like, the cleanup is not the important part of an electrician's job. Making sure things don't burn down and electrocute you and stuff, that's the important bit. So I think that's like, what do they call that? I don't know, managing your expectations or whatever it might be. But as long as the electrician stuff is done correctly, the cleanup is fine. It's not a big deal.
Right. It depends on the contractor. If you are working on a commercial project for a big enough contractor, they typically have somebody whose job it is to clean.
Yeah.
Yeah. We just don't worry about it. Nobody wants to pay $50 an hour for somebody to clean. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Tell us about your bowling ungluing incident.
Oh, sure. So there was a bowler who turned 18, and I was not aware of this. I know their parents, and I saw them, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. So a week or two later, I see him again, and I'm like, surely you're not old enough to be bowling on adult league yet. Me being older and them being the child of one of my friends. Like, yeah, I turned 18 over the summer and blah, 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 I'm like, oh, that's cool. That I wasn't upset. I was like, that's really exciting. So another week goes by, and there was some complaining about bowling balls not hooking on the lane. This person was a youth bowler. Now they're joining adult leagues. So it's a new environment, different alleys, different everything, And they were complaining. The bowling ball was dirty, oily, no maintenance being done. The ball's not hooking, just skidding through all the oil, And I look at them and I said, "Did you clean your ball?" They're like, "No." I'm like, "Well, do you wipe it off?" "No." "When's the last time you cleaned your ball?" "I don't know." And I said, "When I look at you roll the ball, I can count the number of revolutions on it with my eyes. So you're not putting any power on the ball, and you're also not cleaning the ball, so you're allowing it to become dirty and oil soaked. So you're not giving the technology even a chance to hook at all. You don't deserve to hook the ball. If you want to hook the ball in the modern environment, you need to, one, roll the ball in a way that imparts revolutions on the ball to create friction on the lane. And two, you need to maintain your equipment. You spent $250 on this bowling ball and you're not taking care of it. You're not rolling it right and you're not taking care of it." I'm like, you need to adjust to this environment, right? Everywhere you go now, you're going to have lots of oil. It's supposed to be there. It's to be there to make it more difficult. So stop complaining and start taking care of it. And they did not like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I wasn't your coach, but you were being coached in an environment for children. Now you're not a child anymore. Now you're in an adult league. In an adult league, there's different conditions. Expectations are different.
Welcome to the big leagues.
Exactly. Like you're not a child anymore. So, I went off. I'm like, don't use that dirty ass towel to clean it off. Go get a fucking leather pad. They make them now specifically to absorb this new modern oil, and you got to bake them every 60 games. And I went through the list of shit they need to do to maintain it. And they're like, "Oh, it's a lot of stuff." I'm like, yeah, it's a $250 piece of equipment and you have more than one of them. Think about it. You just made $1,000 investment. You got to maintain your equipment,
Yeah, for sure.
And then they're bitching about not being able to hook the ball and bowling bad and all this. And I'm like, you are directly responsible for your bad bowling. Like, don't blame anybody else. It's your fault.
Yes.
So
the lane is not making him bowl bad. He chose to bowl poorly. So
right. Yeah. You're making choices that created this environment. And when I said you don't deserve to hook the ball, man, that look in the face, huh? Like, yeah, you earn it. I don't know how else to say it.
What is it? Who was it? Was it Abe Lincoln who said if he had to chop down a tree, he would spend like 3/4 of the time sharpening the axe?
I've never heard that quote before.
Oh, there's some quote like that. Basically, it was like, how would you chop down like the largest tree ever? And it was like I would spend most of my time sharpening the axe. Because the right tool will make quick work of anything if it's upkept well. And speaking of upkept well, I changed the headlights on my car.
Yes, it looks great too.
And I sent you a picture, and I can see at night now, which is awesome. So huzzah. All right, so Mike, we decided we were going to talk about different diets for this episode.
Yes.
And this was mostly because I was feeling poorly a couple days ago, and I had told you that I ate like dinner, and then that was about it. And you said, "Oh, mad." And I'm acronym adverse. I think that's going to be on the ADA list soon of my disabilities. And I was like, "What the fuck is that?" And you were like, 1 meal a day, and you were saying that you eat 1 meal a day to try and get your blood sugar to not be high all day. And then my response was, well, as a type 1 diabetic, I wonder how that kind of works out with diabetics, because if I don't have food and I do things like I don't have, this is like more than what we need for this episode, but there's insulin, which counteracts the carbohydrates that a person eats. But then when most people don't have enough carbohydrates, there's I don't know what it's called, but it's like an anti-insulin, like it's another hormone that kind of like keeps your blood sugar at a right level. But I don't have either. So if I don't have,
are you talking about ketones?
No,
or ghrelin or something.
You don't want ketones. Like if I go high for a long enough period of time, I get ketones in the urine and stuff like that. I mean, maybe it's ketones. Well, that's what the keto diet is all about, I guess. The ketones.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. I don't know enough about it, even though I've been diabetic for I guess over 30 years, but whatever. But whatever it is, like you need both, right? You can't just have one or the other. So that's kind of the thing with the insulin pumps is the insulin pumps will give you insulin, but until they come up with one that also gives you like the anti-insulin all in one, like it's not a true replacement for the cells in your pancreas that short out to give you diabetes. But regardless, that's neither here nor there. We're talking about different diets. And so I pulled up a couple articles about pros and cons of different diets. I don't know, Mike, do you want to start, or do you want me to go through some of these and you can kind of like interject as you might have more familiarity with some of these than I do?
Yeah, let's have you go through them, and that way we have an outline, but not just me rambling about nonsense.
Yes, but we love when Mike rambles because then Nate can smoke his cigar. However, we talked in between episodes here that this will be one of those episodes where Nate and Mike bring you the internet to your ear holes because we're just kind of reading from the internet. But you know what? If you're not going to look it up, we might as well for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And basically, most of the things we talk about have to be looked up somewhere. I'm not going through the Dewey Decimal System anymore because this is 2023. All right, so the first one here, this is uabmedicine.org. So you know it's legit because all .orgs are legit.
Absolutely.
The keto diet. I'm sure most people have heard of the keto diet. I know my wife's parents have gone on keto diet, and I do have some experience with this because when they're gung-ho about their keto diet, when we go up to visit, they only cook keto things. And not only am I hungry as all get out, but I can tell like I've lost some weight after that weekend. So I know it works. I know it does.
What kind of keto things are they cooking?
Everything's
That's the question.
Keto, man. It's like keto pizza and keto whatever. Like
sure, that shit's like
sometimes.
Go ahead, yeah.
Oh no, you go on.
I was gonna say like the biggest issue that I've seen from the outside perspective of the keto diet is that they're trying to use modern science to make things that are bad for you slightly less bad and possibly as bad, just in a different way. Right?
Yeah.
Like it's not like a truly traditional ketogenic diet, which would be like meats and vegetables that are low in carbs with oils, you know, like food that you're supposed to eat, right? Like vegetables that are non-starchy, you know.
So like for the keto pizza and stuff, they use like almond flour or something instead of like regular flour, and a lot of like maybe pizzas with like cauliflower crust or things. Very low. So basically the ketogenic or keto diet, it's high in fat and low in carbohydrates, which traditionally are sugars, right? So basically it causes the body to break down the fat into molecules called ketones, and the ketones circulate in the blood and become the main source of energy for your body's cells instead of the carbohydrates, the sugars. And this diet, I guess, is used to treat types of epilepsy and some types of cancer.
Yes, and type 2 diabetes.
Yes.
Also, there's growing research about using a ketogenic diet during cancer treatment because cancer cells use sucrose.
Okay.
Yes.
So the pros, it's very effective for short-term weight loss and reducing epileptic seizures. And then studies suggest it may have benefits for treating diabetes and some cancers. The cons, however, are there's not enough research to prove that it works and that it's safe for long periods of time.
Right.
And extremely limited carbohydrates can cause digestive problems, headaches, and other side effects.
We also have to say right away that the standard American diet is an abysmal failure that has created the highest rate of obesity and heart attacks. It's absolutely horrific health consequences for sure.
Yeah.
We know that it's possibly the worst possible thing that you can eat.
Yeah. I think the two things that I've noticed about American food, and especially when you go out to eat somewhere, is one, portion sizes are ginormous. They're massive. And two, the amount of salt they put on things is ridiculous. We do a lot of like cooking at home, and it's nothing like fancy, right? It's just like we cook things at home, but I never add salt to stuff. And so when you go out to eat, you're like, whoa, that is salty. But salt is addictive, and salt makes you drink more, and salt makes you want more beer and more wine and more whatever. So like I understand it because it's all marketing. Like everything's marketing. It's not really
Right. And so is sugar, by the way. That sugar absolutely is addictive.
Oh, but sugar won the war. Sugar said, no, it's fat. It's fat content that makes you fat in food, not sugar content. But that's not true.
Even though sugar has to be converted into fat through your liver to be used as food in your bloodstream. Your brain uses sugar directly, but all your muscles and everything else cannot use it. So it has to be converted to fat and then converted to ketones for your muscles to use.
Yes.
So that's
and I think we should
part
also
of the obesity problem.
We're not doctors or nutritionists. So
we are not.
Again, we're just here smoking cigars, drinking, and having fun. I'm drinking a Hop Valley, but this time it's a Bubble Stash IPA.
Oh, nice. I'm drinking a whiskey sour.
There you go.
So my a single glass of whiskey is done. Bottle is cashed. So straight on to Whiskey Sour Town.
There we go. All right. The next one is intermittent fasting. I know there are a lot of apps out on the Apple Store and the Google Play Store for intermittent fasting. You can set up your own things. But basically, it's eating patterns. So it includes hours or days of little to no food consumption, but you're not limiting essential nutrients. So you alternate, common ones are you alternate a day of fasting, fasting 2 days each week, and then strict limits on what times of the day it's okay to eat.
Yes. And some people argue, there's doctors that argue that eating like the 6 meals a day that was recommended a decade ago is leading to type 2 diabetes because your blood sugar never drops. And it's probably not the best for you to have high blood sugar all the time.
6 meals a day?
You eat 6 small meals a day.
Were these doctors from the Shire? Breakfast, like a breakfast, 11sies. Lunch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're supposed to have like one major meal and then small snacks throughout the day, right? I don't know if you ever heard that.
Oh, yeah. No, I did. I think my mom was onto that for a little bit.
Yeah. And it's like literally the road to type 2 diabetes because your blood sugar never drops. And obviously you become insensitive to sugar if you always have high blood sugar. It makes sense, right? I'm not a doctor, but it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things make sense if you think about them hard enough, which a lot of people don't like to do. I'm not trying to call people out. I'm just saying, like, do some research every once in a while is fine. But, like, do good research. Don't do, like, Facebook research, I guess.
One of my favorite jokes of all time is a Jimmy Dore joke, and it goes, people were making fun of me for doing my own research. What that really means is they're making fun of me for being a reader.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, of course. That's... You're a reader now? What? Are you reading? Loser?
Intermittent fasting. The pros are many dieters find it easier to not eat during parts of the day rather than following portion control and calorie restrictions all of the time. And a small amount of research suggests that fasting may lower blood pressure, blood sugar, and cholesterol levels. And then the cons are that it might limit your intake of vitamins and minerals, and it's effective for weight loss, but there's not a whole lot known about like long-term health effects or how easily people can stick to that kind of diet.
Yes. And again, disclaimer, the standard American diet is literally the worst thing you can do for your body ever. It's horrible.
Yeah. I mean, it's terrible. I don't know if it's more terrible than being in like a country that has rampant starvation.
No, it's the exact opposite, right? Like all the American diseases are diseases of excess, which our diet, the standard American diet, generally pushes, right? Like a box of macaroni and cheese is not a healthy dinner, right? So it's delicious. It's delicious, but it is not good for you.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because like I never really thought about it. If you go like, oh, I'm going to go have like Italian. Well, what do you get? You get like a huge fucking plate of like spaghetti and you get breadsticks. And it's like, well, I'm just eating like all the carbs then. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
with sugar and
like,
fat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sugar, fat, and salt mixed together is just an addictive concoction, right?
Yeah, of course.
Not good.
So this next one, and I know my dad did this one. This is the paleo diet.
Mm-hmm.
So this is named for the Paleolithic era, wherein humans obtained food by hunting and gathering instead of by farming and processing. This diet emphasizes lean meats, fish, vegetables, fruits, and nuts. And I had thoughts on this one because I was thinking about this one when we were talking about doing this episode. Paleolithic. And now I read like The Dawn of Everything, and I read Indian Givers. And I think we briefly talked about Indian givers on the show, where like the potato was native to the Americas. And maize was native to the Americas, and tomatoes were native to Americas. So when you're thinking about like Paleolithic era, I'm not, you're more up to speed on the history stuff. Were there Paleolithic humans in the Americas at that time?
Yes, there were.
Okay.
Also, maize and corn in the modern sense are not the same thing, right? And tomatoes are not the same thing. So that's why something like an heirloom tomato exists. Yeah. Because it's not genetically modified. It's just through breeding over hundreds of years, we have propagated certain properties, which is usually high sugar content because it tastes better.
And all bananas are clones.
Right.
But I did want to mention one thing, and the reason why I called it maize instead of corn is because corn is a designation of your country's main exported grain or whatever. So cornflakes here are different than cornflakes in the UK. So our big crop is corn or maize, what people call maize, and corn in England is wheat. That's their big export. So when you say corn in the UK, it means wheat. It does not mean maize.
I did not know that.
That is, and I didn't know that until I did a 1 month long internship in London, and they don't call it like. So anything that was corn was wheat. So cornflakes would be like our Wheaties, right? And then cornflakes there would be like maize flakes or something. So it's just is a slight differential, but it's like an economic agricultural term, not talking to a specific grain or plant, but whatever that country exports the most of.
Sure, that's interesting. I did not realize that.
But yeah, so that was my thought with the paleo diet was, well, what paleo era humans? Was it all paleo era humans? Because if you're talking like my paleo diet is from from Europe, well, then you're not eating potatoes.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Or modern tomatoes or modern corn or modern wheat, like U.S. wheat at least, for sure.
Yeah. But I think it's more in spirit, right, than actually being specifically tied to a certain region or whatever.
Yeah, facts are not necessary.
Yeah, of course not. So the pros are the paleo diet, successful weight and appetite reduction, and there's some positive impact on heart health. The cons are limited by cost and food availability. It's expensive because the less processed something is, the more expensive it is for some reason. I'm sure there's no foul play in there whatsoever, but that's how it is. A box of mac and cheese costs way less than like one apple. And then it also restricts certain food groups such as dairy products, fiber-rich whole grains, and some legumes like beans and peas. So the diet may have long-term negative effects based on nutritional balance. And I think we're going to find that a lot in some of this stuff where it's like the nutritional balance is kind of out of whack. Not that the nutritional balance of the average American meal is where it needs to be, but have you tried any of these, by the way?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, okay.
I've done keto. Okay. I did like the shitty keto where you try all the weird keto foods and you can lose weight. It's very hard to keep it off.
Yeah.
I've tried certain levels of intermittent fasting. Those who've seen me know that I'm overweight for sure. My weight has fluctuated. I have a hard time with that. Largely because I like the shitty American foods, It's just hard to resist,
Yeah. My weight fluctuates too, and I feel like I might be the heaviest I've ever been. But I kind of like when I'm stressed, I tend to eat,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I feel fat, but I don't think that I really look fat because I'm so tall. But I feel like I'm overweight,
Oh, sure. That's body. You don't look fat to me, my friend, but that's a matter to you,
Well,
I have
to me. So
well, thanks, buddy. I don't have any issues with blood sugar, fortunately, but I do have borderline blood pressure usually. Typically because I spend a lot of my time being pissed off, I think, and I'm overweight,
Yeah. The pissed off might have more to do with it.
I think the pissed off might have more to do with it. I have I have a lot of stress in my job, and I have for years. Yeah. Different careers, obviously, but I tend towards the higher stress career paths for some reason.
Yep.
So it's just a lot of anxiety generally. But right now, I'm trying to control my sugar intake. And I've pretty much switched to just one meal a day because largely eating one meal a day is easier for me socially with my job.
Yep.
That I just eat dinner with my spouse, right? And so that's nice. And then I don't have to worry about eating through the day. It's not an issue because I'm always busy all day long.
Yep.
And then trying to lower my sugar intake helps with not eating at lunch. You know, I haven't ate breakfast on any regular basis for years. Like,
okay,
I don't know, 15 years, maybe even longer than that. Like, I never really ate breakfast. So I kind of always did the intermittent fasting, I guess. Okay. Yeah. But not eating lunch obviously helps with lowering the calories, and just eating dinner and being done with it, you know?
Yep.
And I've been doing that for a while, and I've lost weight. A lot of weight, actually.
That's good.
Slow and steady wins the race, right?
A lot of these diets, the sustainability of it is what's important. And, you know, a lot of these ones so far have said, oh, well, nobody knows if you can do this for a long time without like health risks, if you're severely limiting one thing over the other thing. And what I found when I lost the most weight myself was when I was really active with the portion control, right? Because your stomach kind of stretches out. And if you have one big meal, then your next meal you want to be as big for whatever reason. I don't know all the medicine behind it or the science behind it. But if you can do the portion control, I feel like that's an easily sustainable thing. Whereas saying, well, I can't eat this because it's not keto, or I can't eat that because it's not paleo, or I can't, like some of that stuff, it's like if you want to shed weight, that's fine, but you also have to have that continual plan in place then. Because it's not just about losing the weight one time. Then you have to keep it off too. And that's where a lot of these things, I think, and I don't know for sure, but because I've never really like actively tried to diet other than like, I know I need to lose weight, so I'm going to try and eat less food each meal.
Sure. So
which
for
I
me,
guess is a diet, but.
Right. For me, I struggle with portion control for sure. Yeah. Which is where like controlling my drinking comes into it, because, you know, I can go and drink 4 or 5 beers bowling, but that's 1,000 calories, right? Like drinking 4 beers is borderline on 1,000 calories. So if you do that twice a week, you're not getting drunk at any point because it's spread out over 3-4 hours. Yeah. But now you just added in an extra 2,000 calories, and that's not really sustainable over a lifetime unless you're cutting something else out, you know?
Yeah. Well, and every time I look at like one of these, and I usually just drink coffee at home. But every once in a while we go out and we get one of the like the Caribou coffee, like the coolers or whatever. And if you ever look at the nutritional values on those things, it's like, well, there's my entire calorie intake for like the next 2 days.
Oh yeah, it's terrible.
With one of those things. And it's like, how is this even legal to sell these things?
Oh, it's terrible.
And my Sarah used to work at Caribou, and she had this lady that would come in and order 2 of those in the morning, every morning. Like 2 of these, like super large, extra everything. Like, and it's like, how many calories is that every morning?
Right. You know? It's crazy, you know, and a lot of it has to do with schedule. You know, that lady might work 14 hours a day, and it's really hard to make healthy decisions when you're doing that. I know that when I was doing 13 days on and 1 day off, I would buy pre-boiled eggs because I didn't have time to boil eggs at home. Yeah. I just didn't feel like I had the time to boil eggs, which is insane, but that's just the life I was living at the time, you know. I was doing school, I was working, you know, I was doing some crazy shit.
Yeah. And I don't know, I feel like a lot of this stuff is like, it's all societal. I don't know if it's really pressure, but like, of course there's societal pressure to work hard and do well at your job. But these jobs shouldn't require health sacrifices. You know, it's one of those things where it's, if the job really wanted good long-term workers, they would build that lifestyle stuff in to where you would have time to do these things, you know, and they
for sure
help you with that, but they don't give 2 fucks. And the society doesn't care because the people that are making tons of money every time somebody sneezes are making tons more money every time somebody buys a box of mac and cheese versus an apple or something.
Right. I saw a study, and it's been a while, so the numbers aren't quite accurate, but at professional jobs, you get 13,000 calories a year in empty calories on average because of all the donuts and cookies and like
yeah.
muffins and shit like that you get at the office, you know?
Yep.
And I could totally see that, or pizza at, you know, lunch events, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like 13,000 calories added up over years of time is a lot of time, you know?
Yeah.
Or that's a lot of calories. And
most of those jobs are sedentary. You're sitting. So
right.
they give you donuts and pizza and things, and then make you sit at your desk for 8 hours, and you can't walk, you can't stand, you can't like leave your desk. So it's like a double whammy.
Yeah. And for me, well, this is just me, like for the last year or so, I've just been avoiding eating lunch, because that typically means going to a restaurant, which means you're eating 2,000 calories every time, you know, and that's just not sustainable. That's what you should eat for a whole day.
Yeah.
So it just makes my life easier. And like I say, I'm getting results. My blood pressure's gone down, and I'm losing weight. So that's what matters.
Yeah. And if you could cut down on the bitching out of 18-year-olds, I think your blood pressure might go back to normal. So
yes, other factors as well, but yes.
Yes. All right, so the next one is the Atkins diet. So that's it's similar. I guess it's similar to the keto diet with its focus on burning fat. It was modified in 2002 to the 4-phase New Atkins Diet Revolution. And what it does is it eliminates food made with refined flour and sugar, and it restricts whole grain foods until the final phase of the diet. So, and I think a lot of these like prepackaged diets have phases where it's like the first week you do this, or the first couple of weeks you do this and that and whatever.
Right.
I've never been on the Atkins diet. I don't know if I don't think I've known anybody who's been on the Atkins diet.
I have, and it's a very effective way to lose weight. It's very similar to the keto diet.
Yeah.
Because it's got a lot of gimmicky food that's all really low in sugar and high in fat, and a lot of meat eating. So
So the pros are it's effective for short-term weight loss, and it's easier to maintain than similar diets that limit fat intake. The cons are it decreases your nutrient intake, and studies have suggested that low carbohydrate diets are unlikely to result in long-term weight loss and may lead to health problems. And I think that's like a lot of these are kind of like see results in the first like 3 months, and then they don't really care what happens to you after that. I don't know for sure. I'm not trying to like slam Atkins or anything like that, but you know, just like if you want to lose a lot of weight, you got to do something, but then you have to also do something else after that. Like there's got to be a phase 2 to keep that weight off. You know, you can't just go back to regular eating afterwards, because that's how you got into trouble in the first place. Right.
And like I say, a lot of this stuff, they're trying to maintain the standard American diet just with chemical processes that are slightly different. So you lose weight, and it's not good for your body.
No.
I am not a health expert, but possibly just eating real foods and limiting your intake of processed foods is going to be the best bet long term.
Yeah. And I think if you don't want to get all sciencey and stuff, well, that's my term for like, if you don't want to read the nutritional labels, which is funny because I'm type 1 diabetic, and they always ask me if I want to speak to their nutritional expert. And I'm like, no, get that person away from me, because they're always like super preachy. Not always. I mean, that's like a generalization, but in the past when I have talked with them, they've been like super preachy, like, well, what are you eating? Well, I'm eating a fuck ton of food, because our society is what our society is, you know, like it's like from the Joaquin Phoenix, like Joker, I live in a society or whatever. So anyway, the next
before you continue, cigar check, because I am
cigar check.
Half-ish way.
I'm half-ish way.
Yeah. Very good cigar. Very smooth.
Yes, I like it.
Medium bodied. I like it a lot.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. This is a good one.
True Estates is usually pretty good. I was really disappointed with those. You remember, but I don't. What? What the hell were they called?
The Undercrowns.
Yeah, I was really disappointed with those. Oh my god.
I don't know. This one's fine. It's good.
I could see this like playing golf, right? It's good.
Yeah. This is a good one.
It's not insanely good, but it's perfectly adequate.
Yep, I like it. It's good. It's been consistent.
Yes, sir.
All right, the next diet is the Mediterranean diet, and I know my wife's parents, or my wife's mom, was huge into this. I think we've got a giant, like all of these diet books for some reason are like a 4-inch spine or something, and it's like that's too difficult. Like you can make these things easier. You don't have to. But anyway, we had like a printout for a while. But anyway, Mediterranean diet. This diet follows the traditional eating habits and lifestyle in countries along the Mediterranean Sea. But basically, it's you focus on fruit, vegetables, whole grains, beans, nuts, and heart-healthy fats. And you limit dairy, red meat, highly processed foods, and sugars and salts. The pros are it's the most extensively studied diet to date, and research shows it can have preventative and therapeutic impact on many chronic health conditions. And it's especially popular among people who are interested in a healthy lifestyle and not just weight loss. But the cons are it can be expensive to maintain. And if the calories from olive oil and nuts are not carefully watched, those and other fatty foods in this diet may contribute to weight gain. So if you go too hard into it on certain aspects, you might actually gain weight.
Absolutely. Well, it's all about calories. Well, not all about calories, but ultimately you can't eat 3,000 calories a day. You just can't. No matter what they are.
That sounds like a challenge, Mike, and I'm going to do it. God damn it. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, and 3,000 calories come really quick if you're drinking 2 beers, 3 beers,
Yeah. Well, I will not tell you what I have drink tonight.
Yep.
All right. Here's the next one. I'm switching to a different website now. I'm going to try and not repeat what we've already talked about. This one's called the Blue Zones Diet, and I've never heard of it.
Never heard of it.
Okay, so this one, the pros. So the Blue Zones Diet, I guess, got its name in 2005. It's based on demographic research into regions where the author Dan Buettner found people live longer than average. So basically, he did a study where he found people that live longer than average and then figured out what their diets were. It emphasizes whole grains, a handful of nuts, a cup of beans, and 5 to 10 servings of fruits and vegetables daily. It says no sugar-sweetened beverages, salty snacks, packaged sweets, or processed meats. So the pros are a holistic approach to wellness that encompasses diet, social connection, and whole food, plant-based diet, and moderate physical activity. And it minimizes processed foods and sugars. The cons are grains and legumes are not ideal for people with food sensitivities, and it minimizes meat consumption, which can fit into a balanced diet.
Yes.
All right. This next one, and you mentioned this one to me, I think, before we started recording, the carnivore diet.
Yes.
So the carnivore diet is pretty simple. You just eat animal foods. Some carnivores will allow coffee, dairy, and animal fats, while others are meat only. Basically, it's a zero-carb diet, which can increase your risk of digestive issues and thyroid problems long term. But you're not eating fruits and vegetables, so you're missing out on some of that stuff too.
Yeah, you have to eat a lot of liver and brains and other shit like that to get all your vitamins.
Anytime somebody says brains, I think of the scene from Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom with the Jello monkey brains.
Oh yeah, awful, right? Like, well, the issues with the carnivore diet is that a lot of our vitamin intake is from leafy green vegetables, green veggies, colorful vegetables.
Yeah.
And you have to substitute then a lot of liver and lung and all these weird organs that are just not available generally in the United States.
Yeah, I think the problem with the carnivore diet is that we're omnivores and we're not carnivores, and it's the same as the pet owners that feed their cats only vegan food, and then their cats are like so sick.
Right. Yeah, it's like people trying to feed their dogs like plant-based treats. It's like, look at your dog's teeth. Every single one of them are sharp. They want to eat flesh. It's just the way it is. So it's ugly, but it's true.
Yeah, and so like it goes. I think this one kind of goes against like nature or evolution or what have you. So yeah, it says it's easy to follow for a pro. You just eat meat, so it's easy. You just fucking eat meat. And then the cons are it's extremely restrictive and zero carb is not sustainable. All right, the next one is Dash Diet. I don't know if you've heard about that.
No.
I just thought of DoorDash when it said that, but I guess it's been around since the 90s. And it says DASH. It's an acronym, which I love. I've mentioned. DASH stands for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension. So it's designed to reduce blood pressure. So the pros are it emphasizes whole foods, it reduces processed foods and sugar, and it provides easy guidelines to apply to your everyday meals.
So far, that doesn't sound too crazy.
No. So the cons, though, it says it allows artificial sweeteners in moderation, limits saturated fats altogether. I guess there's an extra hyperlink here that says, read why that's a problem. And then it says it's not really ideal for people with food sensitivities. But I don't know. I feel like this one is maybe more positive than any of the others we've read about so far. So the DASH diet. I guess if you have high blood pressure, Mike, it might not be a bad thing to look into, the DASH diet. Again, I'm not a doctor, so.
Right. I am not a doctor either, but I guess that I have been consuming a modified version of that. I'm like
Okay.
lazy about it. I'm not like doing any
Yeah.
sort of counting of anything. I'm not interested in that. But
That's funny. I'm not really interested in that either, but I have to count carbs to give myself insulin. And I do, but I kind of like, I have a trouble like estimating the portion sizes that I'm eating, So until I can get like, if I can point my camera and be like on my phone, like, here's what I'm eating, just tell me. I just won't know because it's difficult, like I know it's not really that difficult. People do it all the time, but it's like an added step. So
I think a lot of the issues, it's kind of like using a diet app like Noom or something. You have to make it like a hobby, and it's not an enjoyable hobby, so people don't stick to it. You know what I mean? Like, just enjoy yourself.
It's laborious is what it is.
Right. Try to be responsible the majority of the time, right?
Yeah.
Like, we've hung out in the last year, and it's not like I'm like restricting what I'm eating or anything like that. But on days where I'm just going to work and coming home and doing that, it's like, maybe I should have some, some broccoli with maybe a chicken breast or something.
Yeah.
Not get crazy, right?
Well, and for me, like I said earlier, it's the portion sizes. Like, I just eat a lot, but I know if I just didn't eat as much as I eat, I would lose weight. So I don't know.
Right, and adults used to smoke cigarettes, and we don't anymore. And I think a lot of that has been replaced with eating, which is why our lung cancer rates have gone down, but our obesity rates have gone up because people cope.
Aren't cigarettes like an appetite suppressor?
Absolutely. Yep. Yes, they are.
All right, you ready for this next one?
Yes.
The picture looks like a lot of salad. So this one's called the Dukan diet, Dukan. The Dukan diet is a high-protein, low-carb diet. It was developed in 2000. There's 4 phases that promote rapid weight loss without making you feel hungry, primarily by emphasizing high-protein meals and keeping carbs low enough to put you in ketosis. And each phase has its own rules about what to eat and everything. But I guess there's a lot of guidelines for each phase. But the pros are it's designed to help you shift into ketosis. It encourages eating more protein, which helps you feel full. Cons, eating too much protein over an extended period of time can kick you out of ketosis and increase other health conditions. And strict guidelines may not be ideal for people who have a negative relationship with food.
Right. A lot of these seem like gimmick diets that we're covering.
Yeah, I was hoping the South Beach diet would come in here. And maybe
I don't know anything about the South Beach diet.
I thought it was you just drank this like shake thing from South Beach diet, and then that was good.
Okay, and Weight Watchers.
Weight Watchers is going to come in. Yeah, I was just going to say.
All
right, so this next one's the gluten-free diet.
Yes.
Basically for people with celiac disease. And I've read, and I don't know because I'm not a scientist, but it's not really the gluten, it's the other stuff. But I guess things with gluten tend to have more of this thing anyway, but it's not really the gluten.
See, and I've read that because we have genetically modified wheat, modern wheat has higher gluten in it than it used to have. And that does affect people, not like celiac level, but our bodies are not capable of processing all that wheat gluten that's in like chips and, sugary garbage stuff that we eat.
Sure. Pros are it eliminates gluten, protein found in wheat, grains, and barley. And there's been some gluten-free beer I've seen. So, they're certainly doing that. And it's more accessible now because there's growing popularity in gluten-free foods. Cons are it's not an inherently healthy way to manage weight. It requires extra care to avoid gluten contamination. So if you really do have celiac, you can't come in contact with any gluten. And then it's very difficult to manage if you're eating out.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
This next one looks interesting because it's a picture of a whole bunch of pills. So I'm sure this one's good. It's called the HCG diet.
Never heard of it.
The HCG diet makes big claims without a lot of substance. This diet is unsafe, and HCG products are illegal. It recommends limiting your calorie intake to just 500 calories per day for an extended period of time, which can slow down your metabolism, interfere with your body's natural process, and makes you feel lousy. This reminds me of, oh, God, it's one of my favorite films. This reminds me of...
The Matrix.
No, it's Requiem for a Dream.
Oh, okay.
Where the mother of Jared Leto, Bernstein, phenomenal performance from her. She's taken uppers and downers because she wants to lose weight because she is convinced she's going on a game show on TV. And she takes all of these pills. And then it's crazy. So the pros are it allegedly leads to rapid weight loss. The cons, it says here, is literally everything. Over-the-counter HCG products are banned by the FDA. So this seems like a diet you can't even follow anymore without being, I guess, illegal. So I don't know why that's even on there, but I guess it was a diet at one point. The next one is the low FODMAP diet, FODMAP diet.
Another great acronym for you.
Yes, and it is an acronym. Good catch. FODMAPs, fermentable. Oh my God, Jesus Christ! I see why it's a acronym. Fermentable oligosaccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharide, and polyols. All right, are carbohydrates that can cause digestive distress in some people. If you've ever felt bloated after eating wheat, legumes, high fructose fruits like apples or milk, you may benefit from a low FODMAP diet. So basically the pros are providing relief for people with digestive concerns, and it limits common triggers for food intolerances such as gluten and dairy. The cons, it's not really a diet, but more of an eating pattern, and it takes 2 to 6 weeks of strict adherence to take effect, and it's best done with a doctor's support.
Sure.
I've never heard of that one.
No.
This next one's called Master Cleanse. It's also known as the Lemonade Diet. The Master Cleanse is a way to lose water weight by only drinking liquids and laxative for at least 10 days. Hey, that sounds fun.
Oh, my God.
Let's do that. Fuck.
Why not just not eat anything and drink water? You know, like, why add extra steps?
All right, so you know, like Epsom salts, right?
Yep.
So you put them in a bath, and it like makes your skin feel good. But on the back of the like the bag, it's like it could also be used as a laxative. And so one time, my Sarah was like, "Oh, I'm all like gunked up. I got to do like I'm going to do the laxative Epsom salt thing." And she did the thing on the back of the thing, and she like shit for like 3 days. She's like, that was like the worst ever.
Do it over a long weekend is what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm sure my wife is super thrilled I'm talking about that right now. So the pros of this diet, the Master Cleanse, is that it's simple. You just drink lemonade and laxatives for 10 days.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. Anyway, the cons are it's not sustainable because you shit everything out. And then it's extreme caloric restriction, and it increases your stress hormones. So like your body knows when you're being like fucked up, right?
Right. That's insane.
Oh yeah, that's funny. I'm going to recommend that one to anybody who says, how can I lose weight? I'll just drink laxative for 10 days straight.
Yeah, just drink water and laxative. You will lose weight. I guarantee it. Not a doctor, but...
Yeah, not a doctor. Fuck. All right, this next one's called the mono diet. It's called the monotropic diet. It involves eating just one type of food for an undefined period of time. It was popularized in 2014. But I guess there's been people that have followed this throughout history, and they're usually branded eccentric. It's dangerously restrictive and increases your risk of nutrient deficiencies. So
yeah, a lot of people do potatoes. They like do baked potatoes or like whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, the next one is NutriSystem. It's a convenient way to have prepared pre-portioned meals delivered to your door. So it's one of those like, made to order things. The pros are it's convenient. All meals are delivered to your doorstep, and the structured format takes the guesswork out of the weight management. But the cons are the monthly cost, and it's not ideal for people with food allergies or sensitivities because you just get what they give you, and it makes eating out difficult because you're supposed to eat your prepackaged meal from the subscription service, right?
Right.
This one's called a pegan diet. That sounds almost as made up as some of the, the LGBTQ flags we read about.
That I had the same thought.
Well, that's why we're doing a podcast together, I guess. Oh, good. You know what? This is going to be my favorite sentence I've read ever, I think, at least on the podcast. Pegan, part paleo, part vegan. The pegan diet was created by Dr. Hyman in 2014. Dr. Mark Hyman, primarily a plant-based whole food style of eating, minus the beans and whole grains, but allows for some meat, fish, and eggs. But you're also going to be avoiding dairy. You go 75% veggies and fruits, and meat is the side, not the main course. So it combines the whole food principles of vegan with the omnivore benefits of paleo. and it eliminates processed foods and common allergy triggers like gluten and legumes. Cons are nuts and seeds contain phytic acid and anti-nutrient that can cause sensitivities. So I don't know why it would be like part vegan if you're also still eating meat and thing, but
I think it's avoiding like milk and dairy products in general.
yeah.
Right. So the vegetarians will consume dairy products.
Yep.
Some consume eggs. And then, of course, the vegans are no animal product, which is just as kind of against our nature as paleo, seemingly, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Like we have sharp teeth in the front of our face for a reason.
Yeah. Well, and the vegans, sometimes, I know because I dated one in college, or the vegetarians, will do egg whites, but not the egg yolks a lot of times.
That seems like not based on any sort of health thing.
Man, I never said it was.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
No, I know.
I know. They sell like a carton of egg whites, right?
Yes.
At the grocery store. And so I'd have to get that. And then she also ate this, like, I don't know if it was really like plant-based, but it was like this plant-based bacon. But she had to put so much butter on it to make it like palatable. But I always called it fakin', and she hated me for it, and that's probably why we broke up. But it was terrible. It tasted like cardboard, and it's like if you put enough butter on cardboard, of course it tastes good, but not really.
My Sarah got a jug of egg white a while back for some reason. She had a very specific reason for it. She used whatever portion for whatever purpose she had, and then it sat in there until it just got thrown away. Like. I don't know why anybody would get that. We get farm eggs. And they're wonderful. Anybody who can get farm eggs, please do. They are significantly different than a store-bought egg, at least in my opinion. Not everybody thinks that, but I do.
Well, it's based in science too, partially. Because, well, if you get a true egg, like a farm egg, it does not have to be refrigerated.
No, they do not.
But if you get a store-bought egg, it has to be refrigerated because they run them through like the bleacher or the sanitizer, and it takes away layers of the shell to get rid of the chicken poop. And it means that it has to be refrigerated because it loses that structural integrity of the shell.
Yes.
So I don't know. It's weird. Anyway, America does not want you to be healthy. I think that's the point of the episode.
I mean, basically, you don't want to eat McDonald's every day. That's for damn sure.
Well, yeah.
Or Quick Trip in this region.
Oh,
you know,
God. I got so sick off of like a gas station. I don't know, like a burrito or something. I got like such bad food poisoning that I refuse to eat anything from a gas station that isn't like a bag of chips. That's been like,
dude, I cannot tell you a lie. During like the first 6 months of COVID, I was very concerned. Right. So I basically didn't want to go grocery shopping. So I basically ate at Quick Trip exclusively for like 6 months. And I gained 45 pounds in 6 months from eating at Quick Trip.
Yeah.
And I'm like, in hindsight, I was like, what an idiot. You know, like, just get it delivered to your vehicle at the grocery store and go through the extra steps or go into the grocery store. You know, what a moron. Yeah. We all make stupid decisions. You know?
don't know that the food delivery and stuff was really a thing.
It wasn't where I live. Yeah, it wasn't where I lived. Now it is. But
now it is. But it wasn't even really here at the very outset of that. You know what I mean? Like the first few months anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody had to ship. All right, this next one's the plant-based diet. I don't know how that's different than veganism or whatever. But it says here, humans have kind of always followed a plant-based diet. Early humans were opportunistic omnivores. So you're upping your overall plant intake and avoiding or minimizing animal foods.
Yes.
And many different diets fall under this, like raw food, vegetarian, vegan, and Mediterranean, and flexitarian. Oh, God, flexitarian.
So I read the China study, which if people haven't, it's a very interesting read. And it was a 25-year case study in China, and it tracked the diets and the health outcomes of Chinese people.
Yep.
And it supports like a largely plant-based diet as being healthier.
Okay.
It didn't track other trends like smoking and drinking and processed foods and other seriously important factors, you know? but they found that eating a largely plant-based diet is healthier.
Yeah.
Which makes sense, because if you think about a meal, right? Like, should your meal be mostly vegetables with some meat or mostly meat with no vegetables? And should those vegetables be potatoes or should they be, cauliflower or collard greens or, kale or something?
Yeah.
I'm guessing that the majority kimchi with a small amount of extra is better for you than like a pound of General Tso's chicken and like some rice,
Yeah. So it says the pros: eating mostly plants means you're eating fewer processed foods. There's no limitations. You just up your plant intake, and you don't have to completely eliminate animal food. The cons are that a plant-based diet still needs to be balanced. You need carbs, fats, protein, not fruit all day. Refined grains, added sugars of vegan fast food are plant-based, but not necessarily healthful. And some people have sensitivities to popular plant-based sources like legumes. The next one is the primal diet. Have you heard of the primal diet?
No, but I'm sure it's some gimmick.
I mean, to an extent, most of these are, but, I don't know. Maybe what we currently eat is a gimmick too.
Oh, it's definitely a gimmick by Big Sugar. Like early empire was all based on sugar production, right? Like the slave trade was based almost entirely on producing sugar for Europe and other spices. So anybody who wants to say that sugar is not an addiction, well, the slave trade existed for sugar. So I don't know what that would mean other than addiction.
Yeah, and anyone who wants to say sugar's not an addiction, you try cutting out your mocha frappe, a lot of chinos or whatever the fuck they're called, and then you tell me if you're not addicted to them.
Oh, my Sarah went through sugar withdrawals.
I mean, she is your sugar.
She is my sugar. Yeah. She went through sugar withdrawals, and I've gone through sugar withdrawal, like just cutting out, like going from the quick trip diet to like trying to eat healthy. I went through sugar withdrawal like immediately. Like I could feel it,
So the primal diet, it's similar to the paleo. It emphasizes eating whole foods, restricting grains and sugar, and it also takes cues from what our ancestors would have eaten. Unlike the paleo diet, the primal diet allows full-fat dairy, legumes, and nightshades in moderation and only if you tolerate them. So the pros are it allows a variety of high-quality whole foods, and it minimizes processed foods. But the cons are, like other diets, you got to pay attention to how you feel after you eat these potentially inflammatory foods. And I was going to say, like, the other thing about like what our ancestors would have eaten, their lifespan was not what our lifespan is. I'm not saying it's all the food, but sometimes having good food is good,
Right. People romanticize the past.
Yeah.
200 years ago, the child mortality rate was 50%. So we don't live in the same world, so it's not really relevant data.
Yeah. All right, this next one, I don't know that I'm going to like because I don't like picture. It's called the raw food diet.
Oh, I've heard of that.
So proponents of the raw food diet believe that cooking food destroys its vitamins and nutrients. It's true that some nutrients are lost when certain foods are cooked, but cooking can also make food easier to digest, reduce anti-nutrients, and even make certain nutrients more available. Most foods in this diet are plant-based and never heated above a certain temperature. It's not all raw broccoli and carrot sticks. Raw foodists use devices like high-powered blenders and dehydrators to prepare their meals, which means you can still eat foods like smoothies, dried fruits, and nut butters. But please don't eat raw chicken.
That seems like a gimmick as well.
Yeah, so pros, you're going to eat a lot of plant-based foods. I don't know how that's a pro, but sure. Eating more fiber promotes
Satiety.
So you feel fuller longer. Cons are eating raw or minimally heated foods may increase your risk of foodborne illnesses. Please cook your food all the way. Do not eat raw chicken. It's inconvenient, especially if you're eating out. Just bring me the raw steak, please. And may be difficult to eat enough of your daily calories. And here's the one I wanted to talk about, finally, the South Beach diet.
Ew.
The South Beach diet emphasizes food with a low glycemic index, or foods that have minimal impact on blood sugar levels. It's also broken down into phases. Even though it's a low-carb diet, it's not intended to put your body in ketosis. So the pros are it encourages mindful eating. A lower carb style of eating may help you enter ketosis, and it includes convenient options like an app and prepared meal options. But the cons are the cost associated with it, because you have to buy their products. You can get keto flu symptoms during the first phase. That sounds great. Sign me up for the keto flu, please. And prepared meal options are not always ideal for people with food sensitivities because you just get what they give you. So now here's one. It's called the slow carb diet. Have you heard of this one?
I have not.
This one's developed by the author Tim Ferriss. And he's written some stuff. I think I read one of his books. But of course, like you have to get into the diet stuff, right, to make money, I guess. So this one came out in 2010. The slow carb diet claims to promote rapid weight loss by following a 6 days on, 1 day off structure. You eat unlimited amounts of food from a certain list. Then you have 1 day a week to eat whatever you want. It restricts food like white carbohydrate, which eliminates rice, refined flour, and bread, and fruit, which is high in fructose. So pros, eating the same few meals reduces decision fatigue. It allows 1 day a week to eat whatever you want. Cons, having the one cheat day may encourage binging behavior, and it's difficult to follow in social situations.
Absolutely. I do have a note for a cigar. I'm getting flaking on the cap.
Oh, okay.
Like I'm getting some leaf coming off the outside of the cigar.
Oh, I am not.
Which I'm getting, I have like about an inch and a half, something like that.
Okay. Yeah. I'm about there. I'm maybe a quarter inch behind you. But I'm not getting any flaking. But my last cigar, like I mentioned, kind of started to unravel. But
mine also just went out, so I'm going to have to relight.
I've relit this one twice, I think.
Okay.
But I've also been talking, so I'm not sure if it's the cigar or just me and my smoking. But
right.
All right, this next one, we're getting near the end here now. This next one's called the Zone Diet. I mean, most of these I haven't heard of. The Zone Diet is designed to promote hormonal and anti-inflammatory benefits by putting your body in a physiological state called the zone. So that sounds like bullshit to me. But to get there, you eat about 40% carbs, 30% protein, and 30% fat with every meal. You also restrict grains and starches. So the pros are it minimizes consumption of grains and starches, and it reinforces the importance of omega-3 fatty acids. The cons are it discourages food high in saturated fat, even though grass-fed red meat, coconut oil, and grass-fed butter can support a balanced diet. Eating every 5 hour mitigates benefit of intermittent fasting, and it encourages low-calorie consumption.
Mm-hmm.
This next one, we didn't talk about the vegan diet yet, did we?
We mentioned it. We didn't discuss it.
Yeah, this next one is the vegan diet, I guess. The word vegan was officially coined in 1944. But it's closely associated with vegetarianism. You avoid all animal products. Pros are you fill your diet with plant-based foods. Growing popularity means it's easier to follow. There's a lot of, like every restaurant we go to has the V in the little circle for vegan, right? So it's not difficult to do. But the cons are eliminating all animal foods without adjusting your diet may increase your risk of nutrient deficiencies, and it's not inherently healthy. So you still need to make sure you're getting enough macronutrients and micronutrients. So from what I've heard, a lot of people on a vegan diet or a vegetarian diet even still need to up their vitamin intake to make sure they're getting all the stuff they still need.
Right. It's like it's a diet that's available because of modern science. It's not something that your body wants naturally.
No. The next one's vegetarianism. I don't know that we need to I guess it says here historic roots. So it's practiced by Pythagoras.
Pythagoras.
Yeah, Pythagoras. There you go. In ancient Greece. So you eat more plant-based whole foods. It means you're getting more antioxidants and micronutrients. And there's different styles of vegetarianism to suit your needs. But the cons are eliminating meat without adjusting your diet may increase your risk for deficiencies. And it's not inherently healthy. Many foods are technically vegetarian, but they're not nourishing, like refined grains and highly processed foods.
Yes.
Now, here's the one you wanted to talk about is Weight Watchers.
Yeah, boy. I don't know anything about Weight Watchers, to be honest with you.
Well, I don't know either other than they've got everything's got a value, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you eat X number of value, whatever the points are, right?
I think so. I don't know. I've never done it. I don't know anything about it.
I've known some people that have been on it. Weight Watchers teaches people how to apply healthy eating practices. They've got in-person and online coaching, and it's easy to stay within your goals by checking the point values of different snacks and restaurant meals on the go. So the pros are it's highly structured, but it's flexible. It's built-in support system and designed to teach people how to maintain healthy habits, not just lose weight. And then cons are there's a monthly cost. Depending on your program, because you can go and subscribe to whatever. It doesn't account for potential food sensitivities. and the point structure may not be ideal for people with negative relationships with food. The Whole30 diet. It's less of a diet and more of an elimination framework to change your relationship to food. You eliminate grains, alcohol, so that's right out for me, sugar, legumes, and dairy for 30 days. And you instead focus on eating nourishing whole food-based meals, hence the Whole30 name. At the end of 30 days, you can stick to the plan's principles while you return to your regular diet and hop back on to the Whole30 when you want. So I guess at least it accounts for you might not want to do the thing for the whole time. So you've got the pros. You eliminate foods that commonly contribute to food sensitivities. Popularity means it's easy to find recipes and Whole30 compliant ingredients, and there's extensive online support. The cons are it requires the commitment to go cold turkey at least for the first 30 days, and it can be difficult to balance eating out. And cooking Whole30 meals requires planning and time.
It does. It does. What is your cooking schedule in your week? What does that look like?
When I need to eat, I cook and then I eat. What do you mean?
Well, so when I lived alone, I tried to prep all my meals on Sunday, and then they would either be already cooked or prepped so I could cook them like you do in a restaurant. And I've been trying to get back into that because I cook most of the meals we eat at home.
Yes.
Yeah, it's easy to fall out of that habit.
The cooking, yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I do a majority of the cooking. We've experimented with a lot of different things. We used to do a lot of freezer meal prep. So we would get all these recipes for freezer meals, and then we would spend 2 hours on a weekend or something, prepping all these freezer meals. And then all you'd have to do is toss them in the slow cooker or whatever you had to do, and then go from there. And we kind of have gotten away from that. And now we kind of if we have enough food to make meals for the week, we just kind of do those. It's a little more lackadaisical now. It's a little tougher to manage with our current schedule and everything. But we're also trying to settle into the schedule. But I know that it's better for us to have a plan of what we kind of want to eat for the week when we go grocery shopping, instead of saying, what do we want to eat tonight? And then going out and getting the groceries for that and then coming back and doing it, because we end up spending a lot more on groceries if we don't have a plan than if we do have a plan. But we don't really do much meal prep other than we know that if we do tacos one night, we'll have enough meat left over to do quesadillas or nachos another night. So
sure. Yeah. And I try to do Sunday, I try to do all my slicing and dicing, get everything into containers, throw it in the fridge. I cook what I can, and then I try to have a mixture of stuff I can mix together and make a meal and not have to do any cutting. And then also stuff I can just throw into the microwave or into the air fryer and heat it up and be done.
Yeah.
Depending on what we're doing.
Do you do a lot of manual chopping?
Yeah. I enjoy working on a cutting board.
Yeah.
So
we do a lot of manual chopping, though we do have a food processor, which I wish we would use more because it's real quick and easy. It takes a lot of the laborious, time-consuming stuff out of it, but also it's kind of a pain to clean. So I'd like to do a lot of stuff in it to use it. You know what I mean?
Right. Yes, I do. As a side note, I have 3/4 of an inch of my cigar left, and it's very good at the end, in my opinion, but it's getting very hot.
Yeah, it's getting hot. I'm, I don't know, got to be 1.5 inches left, and it's hot, but it's still good.
Yes. Do we have any more diets, or are we finally cashed?
That's it, man. We're cashing the diets.
Perfect.
What are your thoughts on all the diets?
A common theme is to eliminate processed food, which basically means don't eat the standard American diet.
Yeah.
Which is hard, especially if you're working out in the world, and you want to eat a lunch and you didn't bring one.
Yeah. And a lot of it seems to be a lot of the cons are this is difficult to do if you're eating out. And so I think another common theme is maybe don't eat out a whole lot because it's not super healthy.
It's definitely not.
Even if you're going to a sit-down restaurant, they still are putting tons of salt in that, and butter.
Oh, way more than you would at home, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
I cooked at restaurants for a decade, and you would never make food like that at home, ever. With the butter and the salt and the sugar, just throwing sugar in. The mashed potatoes at the restaurant are so good because they mix in potato, and then they throw in a lot of salt and a lot of butter, and then they put in potato flakes to thicken it up. That's why it's so thick and fluffy, because they add in fake potato flakes to like fill the body out.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you wouldn't do that at home, most likely.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
Right.
I did do something like, and this is, oh man, I had a coworker and he loved to eat, and he would say, oh yeah, that's total FGM. That's total FGM. And that's an acronym, but it stands for Fat Guy Move. So I did a total Fat Guy Move the other day, and I was like, oh yeah, so my daughter wanted mac and cheese. And I was like, sure, yeah, let's do mac and cheese. And we bought this big Costco bag of real bacon bits. You know what I mean? Like just bacon bits in a bag, like a fucking ton of bacon bits. So I've been having like bacon bits on everything, right? So I'm like, oh yeah, okay, we'll do like mac and cheese, just the Kraft mac and cheese, and we'll do bacon bits. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try and like one up this. So like I boiled this mac and cheese, but I put chicken bouillon in the water to boil the mac and cheese noodles, right? And so it was like salty, chickeny noodle taste with the cheese and the bacon bits. It's a total Fat Guy Move. It was good though.
Oh, yeah. Well, every time I make mac and cheese at home, I add extra cheese for sure.
Yeah. I still think like with all the diets and everything, I think the biggest thing in America probably is just the portion size. I mean, and the processed food and stuff, but like portion size alone. Like if you look at the portion size, like one box of mac and cheese is supposed to feed like 3 or 4 people. One box. And it's like, oh, well, if more than 2 of us are eating it, it's 2 boxes for sure. Like that's crazy talk, you know? And you go out to these restaurants and it's like you get this plate and the plate weighs like 5 pounds. And you're like, well, I'm paying for this. So I'm going to eat the whole thing. And it's full of salt and butter. So of course I'm going to want to eat the whole thing. And then you're like, oh, I want an appetizer and I want dessert too. And I'm going to have 2-3 beers, you know, like no wonder. So
yeah, even going out to eat once a week can throw your diet off and you're going to gain weight. You know, you're just going to, unless you're extremely active.
Yeah. I mean, that's the one thing, like most of these diets never mentioned was like bump up your activity, like get on the bike or elliptical or whatever, like go for a walk. But that's the whole thing is like a diet alone isn't going to do it for you long term. Like you also have to have what you can maintain. And you need to be more active, especially if you've got a desk job. You know, even if you're home with a desk job, you got to get up, you got to move, you got to do stuff. And I don't do enough of it. Like that's part of it.
Right. And a standing desk, I don't think is going to do it alone.
No.
Standing desks are big now, but.
Yeah. And they're nice. But you still got to be active. You got to move. You got to get that heart rate up every once in a while.
Right. I have a standing desk and I don't know if I've ever used it to stand. So.
Yeah.
Maybe once.
Well, how often are you at the standing desk, though?
Once a week at most.
Yeah.
Maybe once every 2 weeks. Yeah. So, yeah. It's difficult
your job
to watch.
Isn't largely sedentary, is it?
No, it's not. It's not. Out of every 2 weeks, I do 1 day of paperwork, usually.
Yeah.
And it requires multiple computer screens. So standing up, it's just not really conducive to it, to manage multiple windows all at the same time.
Yeah.
My cigar is cashed, by the way.
Yep.
So
I'm about to put mine out.
I got all the way down to a half an inch. It was good. The end was the best part. So
yeah, this one's been good. There's other ones that I have liked more, at least recently, like the Hoya Black and the CAO Consigliere. Sorry. But this one's quite nice. It definitely makes up for the undercrown. So
yeah, I think so.
Yes. I think anything where Drew Estates will actually put their name on the cigar is probably better than one that they won't.
Right. I think that's it for the episode, everybody. Be safe, have fun.
Thanks for listening. Get out of here. Go on.
Be safe, have fun.
Thanks for listening.